Uh, thank you. Can you see it?
I can see a white panel at this point.
All
Not
right.
what is inside of that.
Can you further increase the size? Probably the text is not crisp enough. Even I can
Yeah,
barely see the text.
yeah, yeah. Maybe it gets better as we move forward. I'm not sure.
So,
Okay.
yes,
All right.
it will.
Okay.
So, hey everybody, we're Team Good. We're doing the Arcos Mass Transfusion app. Oh, that's incorrect. I'm sorry, what just happened? Oh.
You might want to zoom out again.
Okay. So now does the mouse just go? There we go. Okay. Now it wants to work. Okay. So we have the Arcos Mass Transfusion. And so for these first two pages, the ones where the user will use to evaluate whether or not
Will you be kind of zoom in again? Thank you. Now that you found the cursor.
Command plus.
Can't you drag the corner to make it bigger? Doesn't that work? Like the corner of the device?
We can enlarge the
Does
device.
that work?
Yeah, that's much better.
Okay. Let's do that.
Yeah, great.
Okay, so these first two pages haven't really changed much. They're still what the user will determine preliminarily if they need to begin the mass transfusion event. They'll select the symptoms that the patient has, and then when it reaches a certain threshold, it will bring them to this page. Now, for this page is where we really start to get into our changes. We've added the button to toggle on and off the camera in the interest of saving battery life for the users. And we've also added at the bottom here a little, I'm so bad at this, a little, here we go. We've added a little slide drawer down here that contains a set of different items called adjuncts, thank you, that will that are relevant to the mass transfusion event, but not vital. They're not the most important element. And so now, another big change we've made is, so previously, when we wanted to save this data for when and where, actually, can you move the command prompt over onto the screen, or the terminal? So previously, we were just using local storage, async data from React itself to save all this data. But the sponsor requested for us to save it in text on the device so it'd be easier to reach out and get if they needed to replay. That's fine. So this brings up a couple of interesting points. So we can go over here to the last page and hit Save to File. And now we can navigate to the device's local storage for some old ones. Come on. Okay. And should be the which one? Okay. And so yes, it will save the info as a clear text file on the device. And you can see here, can you zoom in a little bit? You can see here are the list of things delivered to the user and at what time, just saved as clear text on the device. We have the date and the time for hours, minutes, seconds, and year, and what was administered. And so then this data will get taken back into the app when the user needs to load files. It'll get taken back to the app and rendered in the graphs. Now, because this is a recent change, we just made this week, this actually broke the graph which was reading data from the React's memory itself. that's fine. You know, with a little bit of work, this will become fine again. However, storing this as plain text brings up two big concerns. You know, it allows the users to access it more easily, but it also allows the users to access it more easily. So there's the potential for, you know, ease of use for the users, and there's also, this increases the potential for malicious users to use the app maliciously. So one of the good things about this is there's very little personally identifiable information on this. So a malicious user could get this, and they really wouldn't be able to derive any information from these files that's different from the information that they could derive from the app itself, right? Like if someone's like, oh, I'm gonna steal this data, well, the purpose of the app itself is to render this data, so that's not really a huge concern. However, a malicious user could still just plug the tablet into a PC, change these values to whatever, and then when it loads the file, it can put any sort of malicious code in, and that would be bad. So we will need to perform code sanitation input sanitation to ensure that only the select set of characters that could make up this type of document are what's getting loaded up. We don't want any, we want to prevent code injection. But however, these two concerns, because they've been added so late into the project, we're not terribly, we want to address them, but we won't be heartbroken if they can't be fixed 1 week before the end of the semester. And so those are the real big changes we've done this past week. We've we put a lot of time into ensuring that continuous integration, Jenkins, and testing has been set up properly, and we've been dealing with some of the. I'm sorry, I thought I heard someone say something. And we've been dealing with ramifications of changing from our JSON objects to this text object, which it's not a great concern. Just need to change how it reads and change some regular expressions. And so that's really all that we have. The app performs it performs every function it needs to. There's just some bugs we need to fix, such as the not reading these text files right. And I'm not sure, is there any major bugs any of y'all found besides that? We will do reviews over the weekend. We'll make sure we find as much as we can. But in essence, we've completed what our sponsors have been setting out to do, and they're pretty happy with what we've produced. And so are we.
Okay, I got a couple of questions first.
Sure.
Last time you're kind enough to bring your own tablet and showcase everything that you have on the machine.
Yes.
Can you do the same thing for my sake and Dr. Subramanian's sake?
I don't believe we actually can this time, no. Through gross oversight, we don't have a tablet with us that's running this right now.
Then will you be able to bring one on, say, next Wednesday,
Yes,
the final
absolutely.
presentation?
Yes.
Okay, and also you said in your report that this security issue, the sponsor didn't care much about it, and it was out of scope, and you also said out of time. That's why you decided to go along with this format.
Yes. In essence. So that is in essence. It is out of scope to fix this, and we are out of time. So, well, it's out of scope because we're out of time. If we had more time, we could do it, but we can't.
And you said the sponsor was not overly concerned about this issue at this point.
Well, because they're not very concerned about it, because they're not going to release this app next week when we're finished. The sponsor will have time to go through and address any concerns they have about things like this, about things like personally identifiable information that they want to add later on. The sponsors, we don't have time to address that, but the sponsors will, so that's why they're not terribly concerned about it at the moment. I didn't mean they weren't concerned about it as a general concept. I meant for us getting it finished.
Yeah, actually I was saying this. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes, yes.
Okay, Venkat, do you have any questions?
Well, actually, I'm a little bit more concerned about somebody deleting the file more than corrupting it.
More about
So,
deleting the file? Okay.
Yeah, so I'm more concerned about somebody deleting the file rather than maliciously corrupting it.
Okay. That,
So is there a way to protect the file from being deleted?
I don't know how much control we have over the Android OS file system. I imagine there probably exists some way we could at least obfuscate the text files to where it would be too much of a hassle for the attacker to find something. But just from a perspective of, can we write an app that prevents any malicious user from deleting a plain text file on the tablet? I don't believe that's possible. That you could just write an app that would prevent people from deleting files on your tablet.
Right. Well, that's one of the concerns of local storage. The minute you bring in local storage, you have the risk of losing the files. There's nothing you can do to prevent it. From that point of view, I'm curious if they're considering storing their data maybe elsewhere, maybe on a cloud server, for instance.
Potentially. I know, at least to some degree, the data comes from, there will be a database where things are stored, and then they'll be stored on the device. The files, because the files written to the device are taken from a database, like a MySQL database instance that the app runs. So it's possible that whenever we launch the app, there could be a remote SQL database, and we could check our MySQL database that the app is running against that other like remote SQL database, and then we could check for differences, and if there's things missing, we could add them. That's a potential remedy, but I don't know if we would have I don't know if we could fix it in a week, or implement that in a week.
So where I'm getting to is, right now the data is coming from a file rather than from within the application, and that broke the rendering. Moving forward, when you fix it, it would be good to fix it in a way that if we decide to move the storage to yet another location, then the rendering can continue to work as long as we modify the source of the data.
Yeah, well, that's what caused the rendering to stop working, was because the function that grabs the data is now wrong. It's not that the function that renders the graphs is broken now. It's the function that gets the data to put in the graphs to render is now needs to be updated.
Yeah, but that should be a fairly, a short fix if that is modularized properly.
Okay.
So it's good to pay attention to that moving forward to make sure that yet another fix does not require extensive amount of work.
Okay, we'll look at how it's structured.
Yeah. This is just for the future. It's nothing to do with what you're going to do in the next week, but minimizing the cost of change into the future if they ever come back to say, hey, we want to change this. And I think that they would definitely, end up changing it if they decide to use the application.
Okay.
That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you.